Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar. Boy, are we excited to go round two. Jason and I, we're going to get into introductions in just a minute, but today we've got a couple unique things. One, I am not going to be on video today. This is Gabe Larsen with InsideSales.com. You wouldn't believe it. I've been 2 hours doing my typical 15-minute commute. They've shut down the whole interstate here in Utah. Major accident. So unfortunately, I've gone 5 miles in 2 hours, and it does not look like I am going to make it into the office. So I'm doing the webinar live from Interstate 15. Apologize you can't see my beautiful face, but that doesn't mean the show does not go on, because the show always goes on. Today we're going to be talking about overcoming cold call objections, how to break barriers with one simple strategy. And as always, I've got my man Jason on for MarketSource. Jason, can you take a little bit, remind people who you are and what you guys do over there at MarketSource?
Absolutely. Appreciate everybody being here. Again, my name is Jason McElhone. I'm with a company called MarketSource. What we do is we build world-class inside and field sales teams for much of the Fortune 1000. So folks come to us when they need help with lead generation. We also have a huge amount of account management business. For example, everybody's running on the 80-20 rule. 20% of your customers are about 80% of your business. So organizations will reach out to us and say, hey, we need some help with our small and mid-tier accounts, whether it's direct or indirect, and they come to somebody like myself. So this, again, is a very interesting situation. Gabe's on I-15. I think he said he's been 3 miles in the last hour and a half. So, Gabe, let's make the most of it, buddy.
We're doing it. We're doing it. Just because we're a little shorthand today, you guys, I've got one of our marketing leaders here. His name is Ryan Brenneman. He may help us on the Q&A and pipe in if I do have problems. Ryan, thanks also for stepping in. So, guys, let's get into this. But first, I want to make sure you guys are familiar with that Q&A. Last session we had with Jason, it was fantastic. You guys led the show. You said what you had questions about, and we went that direction rather than talking about the boring stuff that Jason and I thought we maybe should talk about. I want to do the same thing today, so let's see that Q&A box start hopping just to get it started. Make sure you tell us where you're from and give us your name just so you can get familiar using that. And then let's make that things active. Jason, while they're doing that and people are coming in, any quick context setting as we jump into today's conversation around cold calling and objection handling?
Yeah, for example, last Thursday was our first webinar. Is cold calling dead? The answer is absolutely not. I've gotten since last Thursday hundreds of emails, most of them extremely constructive in terms of feedback. But there is an element, I was telling Gabe on the freeway a minute ago, there are some folks that are attesting me to be, some holy grail of cold calling. And I can assure you that's not the case. In fact, and I would love to film this an entire day with Jason, 90% of my day, if I work a 10-hour day, which is the case most times, 90% or 9 hours of my day is a failure, meaning nobody's in, nobody's interested, nobody's got any money, nobody's there to pick up the phone. We all know connect rates when it comes to the telephone are 10 to 15% at best. When it comes to email, if you can get a 3% response rate, you're lucky. So 97% of the time, and I send thousands of emails every single week, is a no. Nobody's home, nobody's interested. The important message here is very simple. Do you have what it takes? There's a lot of systems that work. We talked about some of them last week. But do you have what it takes to put the hours in, to make the calls, whether it's with your finger or something like a connect and sell? Can you put in 8, 9, 10 hours a day to get to that 10% that's what we call a success? Whether it's you get someone to sign an LOI, you book a meeting for a BD, or you close a deal. Most people, unfortunately, and I touched on it on a video that I did on Tuesday, tens of millions of people are leaving the business. Tens of millions, most of them young. They're giving up. They can't handle the rejection. And along comes something called artificial intelligence, AI. And most of it is very, very impressive. If you saw the Google Assistant phone call of the hair salon, it's incredible. We all might be out of a job in the next 10 years, but for now, the question is this: can you handle 90% rejection? Can you wade through all the nonsense to get to the 10% yes without falling prey to those that say, oh, artificial intelligence is going to take care of everything? You won't ever have to make another phone call. You can put your feet up on the desk, Gabe, as you're out there on the freeway, and just hook yourself up to your Instagram or your Snapchat, and you can somehow tweet your way to a $40 million pipeline. Not gonna happen, Gabe.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Jason, it's been a crazy couple weeks on this. I'm showing right now slide 2, just a picture of you and I did a couple videos on this. And I've gotten hundreds of emails, a lot of people on social, people saying, hey, you're giving us courage to pick up the phone again. We got stuck in the social and we're trying to nurture people for 12 months and we've only got a 1-month sales cycle. So a lot of reception. If you haven't seen the battle on LinkedIn, you're missing it. A lot of debate, a lot of good discussion, and truthfully, a good debate about social selling and cold calling and the place for both of them. And again, Jason and I said this last time, guys, it's what your customers want and it's what's working. Go for that channel, but feel free to test them all. But today we are going to dive into cold calling part 2. But Jason, I want to review for the audience, and I'm getting tons of people here. I better mention it. Josh from Atlanta, Matthew from SoCal, Cameron from Rexburg. I don't even know how to say that from LA. Saptarshi from LA. Let's go with it. John from Chicago. I'm expecting you guys to light up the Q&A, so thanks for joining. But Jason, let's go in and just review briefly. We'll head to slide 3 here and just talk about what we talked about last time, this concept of getting permission. We called it the help play here at InsideSales.com based on some of your advisement, but can we quickly review what we talked about last time and how that was so powerful to start your cold call with potentially minimal research, but gaining permission from your prospect before you move forward?
Absolutely. And many of you saw the video that Gabe did, I believe, yesterday. When he talked about the help play, the commit play, there's a lot of plays out there. And they all boil down to one thing, and that is getting permission to speak. The biggest mistake, particularly with young salespeople who are new to the game, is they launch right into the pitch. And when you launch into the pitch, you know you're interrupting somebody's day. You haven't been given the floor. So that's where all the anxiety comes from. So whether it's the Sandler method that the folks at Inside Sales do, or it's what Chris Beal and the folks at Connect and Sell do when they say, hey, do you have 27 seconds to understand why I'm calling? Or my favorite is, hey, it's Jason here over at MarketSource. I wonder if you could help me out for a moment. What those all have in common, Gabe, is we're trying to get permission so that not only puts the prospect into yes mode, but it creates a mutually beneficial environment for two professionals. They're no more important than you are. You've got a solution to the problem. You deserve as much time and presence in the meeting as they do. Believe that. You just need to get permission to speak. And when you do, it totally changes the course of the phone call.
And I love that. I think that principle, we were debating online, and I'm seeing some questions coming in right now. So I want to dive into this. Is it most important to just get permission, or does the verbiage and the tonality? We've got Karen saying, we talked about this a little bit last time, Gabe, but she didn't get her question answered. Is it really about saying, hey, I'm looking at the screen here, hey, John, it's Anthony, Company X. I wonder if you could help me out for a moment. Does the words matter a lot? Does your tone matter a lot, or is it really just about getting permission?
Great question. I said this last time. I'll say it again. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You've got to be totally present and relaxed. Whether you're standing or you're sitting, you have to have some confidence. Some people like to call it swag. You have to believe that you deserve to be either on the phone or in the room with the CEO. And that's going to come with experience. So it's not really the method. I was thinking about this earlier today, Gabe, probably when you were on the freeway. I'm convinced that I could make a phone call, and anybody listening could do the same, where you simply say, hey, good afternoon, it's Jason here over at MarketSource. Do I have permission to tell you why I'm calling? Yeah, sure. Is this a sales call? By the way, this is very important. If someone says to you, is this a sales call? I have one word for that. It's not no and it's not yes. It's absolutely. And if you're in face-to-face mode, lean right in. Absolutely. You're not ashamed of the fact that you're there to solve a problem. Probably one that's been keeping he or she up at night for years. So my answer, if you ask me, am I a sales guy? Absolutely. And say no more.
Well, I think, Jason, that goes to, we got a couple questions coming in. I want to hit them while they're hot. You know, it goes to your point about being, being as honest as you can and just being up front. That's, I think, the concept that a permission does. It's just, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want. Are you open to that? If yes, let's move. If not, let's not. We've got here Jamie from Boston wanted to throw out a quick phrase, and a couple other people as we're talking about phraseology here. What about sorry, I'm catching you out of the blue here. I'll just take a minute. How about starting the conversation there? Thoughts on that approach?
Never, ever, ever apologize at the open of a call. In my opinion, it makes you look weak and unimportant. Weak and unimportant from the standpoint that, again, I said this a second ago, you deserve to be in the room too. Here's something I want everybody to write down. This is a game changer. Grab a pen and paper and write this down, please. Don't sell me something, solve me something. That goes back to the 60s. Don't sell me something, solve me something. We talked a lot the last time about personalizing the persona, for example. I'm a big fan of that. I need to know what the CFO is worried about. What's he worried about? What's she worried about? Cost of sale. Got to get it down. What's a CMO, somebody in marketing, concerned with? Digital transformation. I just did my second video of all time on Tuesday, and little old me got 17,000 views and over 400 likes and comments. If I can do that, I can assure everybody listening you can do the same. So it's not, don't get caught up, Gabe, in, well, I've got to have every word exactly the same as what Jason or Chris Beal at Connect and Sell says, or what you and the folks at Sandler say. Once you understand here in your head and more importantly in your heart, I'm here to solve a problem. It's probably one that's kept you up laying in a pool of cold sweat for years. So I deserve to be here. So I'm not apologizing for anything, period.
I love it. I love it. Couple more of these, Jason, and I don't want to go too far into them, but we got a handful of people wanting to know if their approach is okay or what you think of it. So I got Phil here. He says, what about starting the conversation with this type of phraseology? Hey, hi, Mr. Prospect, or hi, Frank. It's Jamie with company XYZ. Is now a good time to talk? Does that hit the button of the permission?
I'm on the fence on that one because there is a school of thought that believes getting the first no out of the way quickly can be to your benefit. For example, Gabe, you and I were talking yesterday, and I think I saw it in the video you did, where my strategy, where I'm closing within 15 to 20 seconds. In other words, if you missed the first webinar, here's my approach. You start by asking for help. Hey, it's Jason at MarketSource. Wonder if you could help me out for a second. Sure, I'll do what I can. Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm getting permission.
Yeah.
The prospect's in yes mode. I have permission to proceed. It then goes to present the problem. What's been keeping you up at night? I should know the answer to that. I've got a potential solution. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And then by 15 or 20 seconds, I'm closing out of time. Does Monday at 9 or Tuesday at 11 work better for you? Boom. So you better be prepared if you use this philosophy of closing quickly or getting to a no fast. You better be able to handle the objection, which is what we're going to talk about in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, let's do that, because now I'm getting lit up, Jason. I'm getting a handful of people. They were obviously on last week, and they're like, hey, we get this part, Gabe. Let's get moving. I want to get to the cliffhanger of objection handling. If you remember from last week, for those of you who weren't here, we went through a lot of kind of just what we're covering real quick here in a review, and then we left it as, hey, when you go through that talk track and you get that moment of silence to potentially the objection, how do you handle it? And Jason left us all kind of hanging on for nothing. So, Jason, can you just real quick, I'm looking at the slide 4 here. Can you just run us through, just so we're all on the same page, what that kind of help play looks like top to bottom, where you introduce problem solution and then kind of next steps. And then let's talk about the objection, just so we can kind of get that context. Can you go through it once?
Yeah, and Ryan, if you're on the line, I'm still looking at 2. Maybe it's my computer, but if you could show me slide 4, that'd be great. Here's what's very important that you have to be thinking about. And I said this in our last webinar. Half of all objections are not real. For example, I just bought this shirt about an hour ago. I went into a store. I'm not very savvy when it comes to shopping. Most men are not. There's a beautiful young lady standing at the front door. As soon as I walk through, she says, "Good afternoon, sir. Can I help you with something?" My immediate reaction is, nope. Just looking. Of course I need help. I'm off. I got a webinar in the next 35 minutes. I need to get a shirt quickly. But my knee-jerk reaction, that again is part of our conditioning, I wasn't forthright. I didn't tell the truth. The same rules apply when you're talking to a prospect. They're not lying to you maliciously in most cases. It's either a knee-jerk reaction or they're testing you out. We used to call it poking you in the chest. I'm not interested. Let me think about it. You know what? Every guy that's called me this week sounds the same. They're buying time to make a decision. Do I want to invest in Jason? Do I want to give him the floor or not? So my opinion is, if half of the objections are not real, and they're not, why invest yourself and your ego in particular into trying to overcome them? You shouldn't. Yeah. And I don't.
Yeah. Do you feel like, Jason, this has been one of those things in sales where people, obviously, to your point, they get stuck on it and they break down, and it often is somewhat offensive. I love your analogy of walking into a store, because you're right. Oftentimes I just give an objection just because they approached me maybe in the wrong way, but nonetheless, it is. So I'm looking at this talk track here on slide 4, and you kind of go through with the help play, and you end it with, "I'd love to swing by your office next Wednesday or Thursday at 1 p.m. Which of those days are better for you?" What are you typically, do you typically objection, or at this point, is it price? Is it interested? What's typically the main objection you're dealing with, you feel like?
Great question. For the sake of time, we'll do this quickly. Again, whether using my system or not, you've got to get permission at the beginning of the phone call. So I like to say, she says, "Good afternoon, it's Sarah at ABC. Oh, hey, Sarah, it's Jason here over at MarketSource. I wonder if you could help me out for a second." 99 times out of 100, she will say, "Sure, I'll do what I can. What's up?" "Great, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Thank you." Listen, I always like to have that subtle command. Listen, the reason I'm calling today is, and that's your value prop, i.e. the pain. We used the example on the last webinar. We're going to pretend that Jason's in the healthcare insurance business. I'm not, but for the sake of argument, let's pretend that we are. So I reach out, I say, "Listen, the reason I'm calling you today, Sarah, is that most businesses in the community are sick and tired of the skyrocketing cost of healthcare. He or she's going to say, yeah, and if they don't say it, they're definitely thinking it. It just so happens, Sarah, that we've put together a solution that could lower your premiums by as much as 37%. And I mentioned in the first video, don't use a round number. It's got to be truthful, but you want 37, 29, 41, because it really creates a, that's a really interesting number. I wonder why it's 41. But then a third of the time, if you do the help question or the help play, as Gabe says, properly, you're going to get the meeting. 2/3 of the time, you'll get a soft objection. Sounds interesting, but I'm busy. So here comes the whopper, folks. If you want to know how I handle one of any objection that you could possibly think of, here's what it is. So you might want to grab your pen and paper again. There's two options. Not a problem, Sarah. I understand how you feel. Or, my favorite, not a problem, Sarah. I really appreciate that feedback. By the way, I just did the motion to shut your mouth. Don't say anything further. I do not believe in overcoming an objection. I don't even believe in handling it. I say it sometimes, but what I want to do is understand and appreciate how you feel, period. So when Sarah objects, 2/3 of the time, it's going to be soft, meaning it's not going to be nasty and rude. If you open the call the right way by asking for help, I simply respond, and it's really good in person. I'm 6'3", 240. So I would say, it's not a problem, Sarah. I totally understand how you feel. Or it's not a problem, Sarah. I really appreciate the feedback. Then there's something called a 3-second rule. You sit there, and it's even better in person. I'm not scaring Sarah. I'm not stepping towards Sarah, but I'm standing tall. I said, hey, it's not a problem. I really appreciate the feedback. I'm still here, though. I'm in her space. So she has a dilemma, or he has a dilemma, and this is very important, Gabe. Do I tell the truth because Jason isn't moving? And you don't have to be 6'3". You could be 4'1", but you got to have some swag. Again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Gabe. You have to believe you deserve to be here. And if you'll have a mindset of don't sell me something, solve me something, meaning I got a problem that I can solve, but you've got to be willing to give me a chance to share it with you. You have to have that mindset. So when you get the objection, it's not a problem. I understand how you feel, or I really appreciate the feedback, but I'm not moving. 3 seconds go by. Sarah doesn't say anything. I then have to speak. So here's what you say.
I'm listening.
Again.
You got me on pins and needles here.
You say the word again. I said this in the last webinar. So she says nothing, and I say again. Sarah, you and I both know that healthcare costs are going through the roof. And it just so happens that I've got a solution that could help bring them down by as much as 37%. So Sarah, why don't we go ahead and grab some coffee? I've got another meeting to get to. Why don't we grab some coffee next Wednesday or Thursday? I don't know, say 9 o'clock at the Starbucks on the corner. Which of those 2 days are going to be better for you? Boom. Now, a third of the time that I'm in that 2/3 objection, she's ultimately going to cave. The other third of the time, I'm in for a dogfight. Even if you ask for help, you've got a real compelling value prop or a solution. Your presence is good. You're extremely confident. A third of the time-ish, it's a dogfight. So here's what I do. I feel like there should be a drum roll. You got to have a whopper. you got to have a big old, for lack of a better word, bullet. The bullet I have here at MarketSource is in 2017, Sarah, we drove over $7 billion of net new revenue growth for our clients. And I just want to help do the same for you. So why don't we grab coffee, yada, yada, yada. If I was in the healthcare insurance, Gabe, I might say something like, Sarah, in 2017, we were able to reduce premiums in the community by a combined amount of $10.7 million. And I just want to help do the same for you. So why don't we grab some coffee next Wednesday or Thursday down at the Starbucks, 9 o'clock? Which of those 2 days is going to be better for you? Boom. So just to review, you have to ask for help at the open, Gabe. That plants a very powerful subconscious seed. The call's not going to end, or this face-to-face meeting's not going to end until Sarah helps me. Why? She said she would, and I thanked her for it. She knows, even if I don't agree to this damn meeting, I've got to give Jason something. Maybe it's a referral. Maybe it's a request to come and see me in a month. It's something. You get that first objection. It's not a problem, Sarah. I understand how you feel, or I really appreciate that feedback. Again, I go back to the pain. I don't have to remember anything new. I'm back to the pain. Again, Sarah, you and I both know the cost of healthcare is going through the roof, right? Yeah. It just so happens I've got a solution, and I can help bring those premiums down by as much as 37%. So why don't we go ahead and grab some coffee? Give them a time, A or B, boom. But just to recap real quick, that third of the time, there's a dogfight. You might go 3 or 4 objections deep. And by the way, if you do, bravo. It's a known fact. About 2% of all salespeople get to the 3rd and 4th objection. So if you're there, you're in rarefied air. Bravo. All you have to do is come up with your whopper, sit down with your team, tell the truth. What's a big number or percent? What's a big number or percent that we deliver for our clients? And then you bring it with all your heart and soul. We were able to bring premiums down in this community, Sarah, by a combined amount of $10.7 million, and I just want to help do the same for you. Boom. Gabe?
Interesting. Got a bunch of questions coming through, Jason. So I want to partially see if I can make sure I'm on the same page here as well. So you've got the open, you got the problem, you got the solution, and then you kind of recommend next steps here. Now, once you recommend next steps, bunch of questions coming in on that, just how you phrase that. Do you go more with, this is coming from Eric and Nick, would it be effective to you, well, let's not use that one. Do assumptive closes for meetings work better than asking what day and time works for the prospect, Jason?
Great question. In my opinion, no. No, and here's the reason why. And for those who are not aware, I've been in inside sales for 27 years. You don't have to agree with everything I say. In fact, if you agree with everything I'm telling you, I'm a little nervous. There should be something in here, I'm not really certain about that. But as I said at the open, you have to believe you deserve to be in the room. When you know the answer to the problem, and the prospect knows that you know, you're invincible. So don't be afraid to say, is Monday or Tuesday at 9 going to be better for you? You don't have to manipulate them or coerce them into an assumptive close. You're standing tall and proud. You're firmly in the moment. You're busy too, but you deserve to be here. So I've got time, Sarah, here or here. Which of those two are best for you? Boom.
Got it. Okay. And then a couple other things, and people are asking here. So you get through your regular talk track, and then you hear the first objection. Sounds like you start with, again, making sure that you have some sort of empathy for them. I understand. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. And then a couple people asking about the pause here. Why the pause? Is it really 3 seconds? Is it I can't handle awkward silence. We got one person who said, I hate the silence. What is the point? Or is 3 seconds long enough? Or one more quick review on the silence there.
Silence is golden. Silence is golden, especially in sales. Look, I can remember back when I was scared to death many, many years ago. I was tripping over myself. I didn't even know in many cases if I could make the call. Fast forward to today after you've been doing it a million times. It goes back to what we just said. When you have a mindset of don't sell me something, solve me something, I have the keys to the kingdom. What is that? That's a solution to your problem. Now, we're going to have this meeting on this time or that time, and I'm not in a rush to get there. So when I respond to, hey, Sarah, it's not a problem. I understand how you feel, or, hey, I really appreciate that feedback. You have to be willing to let it breathe. I say that all the time. Let it breathe. Let the 3 seconds go by because, Gabe, real quick, when we first had this training 10, 12 years ago, we were taught to say, hey, Sarah, I understand how you feel. I really do. And then we could not sell. We were told to shut our mouth and sit there. And the silence was an incredible learning tool in that most people get uncomfortable with it. So I'd say, hey, it's no problem. I understand how you feel. We had to keep our mouth shut. 1, 2, 3. Well, it's just that I've been burned on this before, Jason, and I've heard this, yada, 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 and I'm listening intently, but we were not allowed to proceed with the sale. We had some conversations, and ultimately there was a red light on the desk where the manager would buzz in and say, okay, look, Sarah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I've got to go to a meeting. Can I call you next week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday at 9? Oh, yeah, do that. So the moral of the story, Gabe, is when you get used to letting it breathe, when you let the silence be without rushing into your pitch or a rebuttal for the objection, it is so powerful.
Interesting. Okay, so you got the empathetic statement, then you take a breather. I love that. Then you jump in, and it is kind of it's a repeat of kind of the benefit statement. Hey, look, Sarah, we can. I know the biggest problem in healthcare is these rising costs, and we can save you 37%. And it's almost a repeat of kind of that recommendation or prescription call to action statement. Am I understanding that right?
Absolutely. And here's the deal. And if you put together the first webinar with this one and the video I did on Tuesday, keep it simple, stupid is Jason's mantra. Everything I do is so simple that for many people, and I understand, I had the same level of resistance years ago. It's too simple. You mean I can just ask for help or ask for 27 seconds or, hey, do I have permission to speak? Is this a sales call? Absolutely. Whatever you do, get permission. And then you present the problem. Healthcare is going through the roof, the cost. The potential solution, I might be able to bring the premiums down by 37%, and then I'm closing on a time, A or B. Boom. When I get an objection, and I will 2/3 of the time, instead of having to remember, okay, where are my bullets? What's my, features and benefits? No, I'm going right back to the pain. You know why? That's what he or she is concerned with. They don't give a crap what my benefits are. I've got a problem. I don't give a what about what you've got, Jason. It's my problem. So what do? I go right back to it. I have less to worry about other than the pain. Again, I'm a problem solver. So I simply repeat the pain. It's almost like you're ripping the Band-Aid off, Gabe. You got to have the guts to do that.
Absolutely.
And then come back with a comforting, look, I can help solve this problem. Why don't we just grab some coffee here or there? Boom. In the 1/3 of the times, folks, where it's a dogfight, you got to have a whopper. Sit down with your team, come up with a big number, Gabe, or a percentage, and then bring that, and then close.
Yeah, so can you go through that? Because we got probably a dozen people kind of hitting and saying, hey, on that 1/3% of the time, what is it? Is it a statement about my big benefit, or it's a big number? Can you give us a quick example, that dog fight one third of the time, what that may look like?
Yeah, to use the healthcare example, again, I'm solving problems. I'm not selling something, I'm solving something. So I'm on a mission to bring healthcare costs down in my community. That's as important as any pitch you're going to have. I would spend more time and money investing in building a better mousetrap, which is a solution to the problem, than trying to find out where he or she went to school. Because once you know you've got a chance to solve this problem, particularly around healthcare, you're going to be relentless. You're not going to be knocked off the snide very easily. But in a third of the time where it is a dogfight, you got to have the whopper, the big one thing that solution does, or that your organization does. So for me, if I was in the healthcare business and she says, yeah, that sounds interesting, but look, this is just a bad time. I've got 2 crying kids in the other room. Call me another time or stop by another day. Sarah, in 2017, we were able together with our solution to bring down healthcare premiums by over $10.7 million, Sarah. So all I'm trying to do is help do the same for you. Why don't we grab some coffee next Tuesday at 9 or Wednesday at 8:30? Which of those 2 days are going to be better for you? Boom.
Got it. Yeah, that's great.
I understand the resistance, and I could talk about this for 48 hours.
Yeah.
We live in a keep it simple, stupid world. Get to the point. Yeah. What's the point? I've got pain. You say you've got a solution. Let's talk about it. It's that simple. When I get an objection, it's never a problem. Or I appreciate the feedback. Then I go right back to the pain. Another objection comes, hands go back up again, and I hit you with the whopper. And then I close. Most people don't close. There's a stat real quick, Gabe. I saw this on Power Sales University the other day. 83% of all salespeople never ask for the order one time. So they might be standing in front of Sarah's door or on the phone, and they'll never say, let's grab some coffee. Or can I buy you dinner next Thursday or Friday, say 6 o'clock at the local steakhouse? What's going to be better for you? So they'll pitch their heart to their heart's desire, and they'll close with me in this system. And you can do the same. It's ask for help, present the problem, share the solution, close on a time. When you get an objection, Gabe, the hands go up. It's never a problem. I understand how you feel. If I have to draw on my whopper or my bullet, I do, but then I close.
Yeah. I love the close. So a couple things coming in here, Jason. Oh, sorry. I felt like I got a little bit of an echo there. So Kyle's saying here, if I present an objection, if I'm presented a legitimate objection that's a question, is it worth trying to dive into right there and answer that? Like, not just I don't have time, but it's a real question that has that kind of connotation of objection. Do I try to answer it right there, or do I kind of skirt around it, try to get to the appointment, and dive into it maybe when I get to the appointment?
Great question. It's debatable. In some cases, and this comes with experience, I might go down that road. But 90 times out of 100, I'm not going to get distracted. Again, my mindset is I'm a problem solver. They don't care about me. They don't even really care about the benefit until it makes sense to deliver it. And that's after a couple of objections. What they care about is themselves. I got my problems. If you expose the problem, and you got to have guts to do that, you got to rip that Band-Aid off and say, look, I know you're suffering with the rising cost of healthcare, right? Yeah, why? Well, it just so happens I might be able to bring your premiums down by 37%. So it's very tricky if they throw you the curveball. Most of the time, don't fall for it. Get right back on track. It's present the problem, share the solution, and close.
Interesting. Okay, let's keep going because, man, I haven't been able to keep up on questions today, Jason, and we're running short on time. Let me hit these other 75 questions I've got and see if I can get them in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Joel's talking. He says, hey, if you're talking to him and you've got him, why schedule a future call or appointment? Why not just do it right then and there and get her done?
Here's why. And I'm sure there's an exception to the rule. If a prospect senses, let's say you're at a show, you're at a big show, you've got at least 50 booths that you've got to get to, or 50 phone calls, important ones that you've got to make. If a key decision maker senses that you've got all day to tell them how wonderful you and your solution is, you look small. You look like you're not that busy. And again, you deserve to be in the room too. You have the keys to the kingdom, which is a solution to the problem. But you also have about 25 other people that you need to get to. He or she is just one of them. That's a great question, Mr. Prospect. If you don't mind, I'd love to call you next Wednesday or Thursday, say 9 o'clock, because I've got a lot of folks that I've got to see. You're not disrespecting that prospect. You're actually tantalizing them with, hey, Jason wasn't so desperate to pitch me. He walked away from what could be a deal. It makes you look strong, not weak.
Interesting. Okay, let's keep going, man. I've got rapid fire here. I like this one coming from Kyle. This one's from Adam. He says, sometimes, Jason, I'm in the situation where I find that they're using a competitor and the problem, they kind of feel like they've solved the problem. You've been using the rising healthcare challenges. Let's say they don't have enough, X, Y, or Z. Like they've attacked it and they're moving in the right direction and they're using one of my competitors. So it's quote unquote not as big of a problem. How do I handle that situation? But I know my solution's better for them, but they don't feel like they've got a problem.
Tremendous. I don't know if you're feeding these folks questions, Gabe, but they're exactly what we need to be talking about.
They're tough questions. It's a good one.
Never, ever, ever bash your competition, ever. Even if you know it's a scam, don't do it. It's a terrible precedent to set. So what I like to do, and I know who my competitors are, I say, I'm very familiar with so-and-so. Great firm. A lot of things they do well. However, this much I do know. So then I'm right back to my solution. So I just deflect it, compliment the firm if they deserve one, but never get down in the mud and say, oh, they're terrible. By the way, did you see that the CEO just got indicted on some sort of scandal? Don't go there. You look small if you do that. Just say, great firm. There's a lot of things they do well. But, and then I'm right back to my pitch with all the passion and fury that I can deliver.
I love it. Couple more questions, Jason, that we get to, and then we can wrap here. Going back up, you hit this a little bit last time, but how do you, this gatekeeper concept, hey, Jason, what do you say to the gatekeepers after asking for help? So this is back up to the original statement, moving away from the objection for just a minute. I want to get a couple of these that I've been trying to get through here for a minute.
Yeah, I mentioned in the first webinar, about a third of all the leads I get, because I'm one of those folks that love to cold call, I call an 800 number. So I am lost. I don't know what persona I'm looking for. I certainly don't know where he or she went to school. So when they say, good afternoon, it's Sarah at ABC. Can I help you? Oh, hey, Sarah. It's Jason here over at MarketSource. Wonder if you could help me out for a second. Sure, I'll do what I can. Great. I really appreciate that, Sarah. Thank you. Listen, the reason I'm calling today, and let's assume I don't know the persona, is that healthcare costs are going through the roof in our community. She's probably going to go, oh, yeah, tell me about it. Well, it just so happens, Sarah, I've got a solution that could bring down your premiums by as much as 37%. So who do you suggest I talk to in reference to this opportunity? I always say the word opportunity, by the way. I want them to know it's an opportunity to solve the problem. Most of the time, Sarah's going to say, I have no idea. Or she's going to put me on hold and say, well, hang on a second. Let me see if I can find out. Let's say there's no answer. I have no idea, Jason. I asked around. Nobody knows a thing. What I then say is, well, I typically engage. I would write this down, folks, or watch it later. I typically engage the VP of sales or marketing. Who might that be? Oh, I can't give that information out. I just want to send him or her an email. So if you've got a name, give her a choice. A name or an email address I could use, I'd really appreciate it, Sarah. Then Sarah has a dilemma right there. I've been very courteous. I've been very professional. She's not willing to cough up a name, probably protecting the boss. Don't blame her. Then I offer up a potential title, still not getting an answer. Then I interject the email. I can email it to a company address or a person. Which one of those is going to be best for you, Sarah? And most of the time I get an answer or a name, and then I just keep following the trail until I get a chance to ask for help again.
I love it. I love it. All right, man, rapid fire. Let's continue. Back to the objections. Matthew hit me up. He said, why only use that whopper kind of statement 1/3 of the time when it's a dogfight? Why not go ahead and just use it on those other 2/3 of situations?
Excellent point. Did it for many years myself. The main reason, in my experience, is you're trying to throw everything possible up front. Why? You don't want to handle that objection, right? It does this, it does that. We can bring them down 37%. We save $10.7 million for the community. I don't want to have to deal with any objections, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, so I'm going to put it all out there up front. Wrong. And this is going to take some time to get used to. You got to ask for help, present the problem, share the solution, close on a time. If you do that the right way, 1/3 of the time you're going to get the meeting immediately. 2/3 of that soft objection. I don't need the bullet yet. Listen, Sarah, I understand how you feel. Listen, or again, I'm just trying to bring blah, blah, blah. Here comes the benefit, and then I close again. So the short answer is I don't need it until I really need it, and neither do you. Gabe, are you there?
Yeah, last question, Jason. Let's go into this, and we'll wrap here. This one's coming from Marcella from San Antonio. What do you say to a prospect when they ask you, how do you actually compare to your competitors? Do you go negative? You go back to kind of the same point? How do you handle that one?
Same way I mentioned just a few minutes ago. I'm not going to get down in the mud and roll around with the pigs. I'm not going to spend time bashing my competition. Again, this is what frustrates a lot of people, Gabe. You got to stay focused on the system, asking for help, present the problem, offer up a solution, and close. Anytime you start going around or down another trail and over this way and down that way, you're going to lose track. You're going to lose momentum. You're going to lose focus. When you have a mindset, and this frustrates a lot of people, but it's true. I'm not in the business to sell something. I'm here to solve something. And I know, Sarah, you've got a problem with healthcare costs. I'm just trying to bring them down. So why don't we get together here or there? What's better for you? Boom.
Simple, yeah, man. It's always staying on message. It's always staying on point. I love it. Well, Jason, there's more questions, but I think we need to wrap here. Let's kind of close with the summary statement or last words from you. Thoughts on the session or things you want to leave with the audience?
First of all, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. The last week since the first webinar and the video I put out on Tuesday, it's been seen tens of thousands of times. I've gotten hundreds of emails, and questions. The biggest thrill for me, and you guys know who you are. Jason, I tried your method. I couldn't get a hold of this guy for months. I finally got through. I said, hey, could you help me? And even though I was clumsy with the approach, I got the meeting and I've got a big deal in the works. I got dozens of emails like that. Here's the moral of the story. The resistance you might feel is normal because all of us are fighting decades of training, conditioning. There are libraries full of books, and some of them are really good, saying you've got to have this, 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 and this. And then along comes a guy like myself who says, no, you just need to ask for help, present the problem, share the solution, and close. And when someone objects, and they will, put your hands up, say, hey, not a problem, Sarah. I understand how you feel, or I really appreciate that feedback. And then I'm closing. And I never go down in the ditch and bash a client or a competitor or somebody that I'm not friends with on LinkedIn. There's a few of them that are not a fan of me. I don't go there. I stay on message. I keep it simple, stupid. So in closing, I would like to say, look, whether you're a millennial that's struggling, you're a veteran who's been in the game like me for 30 years and you're plateauing, or you're a C-suite executive who's got an inside team that really needs help generating qualified leads or serving those small and mid-tier accounts. All the above, send me a note. I'll do whatever I can to help point you in the right direction. So, Gabe, you're on Interstate 15. Most people would have canceled. They would have canceled this webinar, but we came through with it. I hope it was worth it to everybody who tuned in.
The show must go on. Jason, really appreciate it, you guys. Jason, we're a big fan of what he does. We'll try to get some of this information out to you. Again, we'll both be offended if you don't continue the conversation. Grab us on LinkedIn. Let's continue to discuss and debate, is cold calling is dead. So with that, remember, success is just one play away. Jason, thanks for joining everybody. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you very much.